Damage control orthopedics. Many orthopedic patients who have sustained multiple injuries benefit from the early total care of major bone fractures. However, the strategy is not the best option and indeed might be harmful for some of multiple injured patients. In such patients, the concept of damage control orthopedics has evolved. Damage control orthopedics is an approach that contains and stabilizes orthopedic injuries so that patient's overall physiology can improve. Damage control focuses on control of hemorrhage, management of soft tissue injury, achievement of provisional fracture stability, and avoiding additional insults to the patient. If you look into the history of fracture fixation and damage control orthopedics, in 1900, patients were treated with the traction prolonged bed rest. The results were poor. In 1938, in Switzerland, the concept of external fixator was introduced. In 1950s, AAOS published high complications of external fixator. At the same time, in Russia, Elizera was introduced for fractures. In 1958, EO established objective early fixation and mobilization. In 1980s, the concept changed to early or immediate fixation for fractures. In 1990, the concept of immediate definitive fixation was challenged. A lot of people started talking about selective approach to fracture fixation. At the same time, the second hit phenomenon of nailing was introduced. And in 1993, damage control orthopedics started. History of abdominal damage control surgery. In the 1940s and 1950s, controlling hemorrhage, cleaning the contamination, and leaving the abdomen open improved the survival of patients with a lethal triad of hypothermia, acidosis, and coagulopathy. The purpose was to control rather than definitely repair injuries. In 1993, Rotondo and Jones coined the term damage control. In phase 1, the immediate laparotomy was done to control hemorrhage and contamination. Phase 2, patient was resuscitated in ICU and stabilized. In phase 3, reoperation was done for removal of the intra-abdominal packing and definitive repair of abdominal injuries. Physiology of damage control orthopedics. Traumatic injury leads to systemic inflammation. Recovery mediated by counter-regulatory anti-inflammatory response. Severe inflammation may lead to acute organ failure and early death after an injury. A lesser inflammatory response followed by an excessive compensatory anti-inflammatory response syndrome may induce a prolonged immunosuppressive state that can be deleterious to the host that results in the late death. Two hit theory is shown schematically here. The first hit is the initial traumatic event and the second hit is the definitive orthopedic procedure, usually femoral nailing. Patient selection for damage control orthopedics. Which patient should be treated with the damage control orthopedics instead of early total care after orthopedic trauma should be decided on the basis of the patient's overall physiological status and injury complexes. Many trauma scoring systems have been developed in an attempt to describe the overall condition of the trauma patient. There is no score that assists in decision making during the acute resuscitation phase. It remains a clinical decision. The current treatment algorithm from Germany. This is from the Hanover, Germany, for the use of damage control orthopedics based on prompt and accurate determination of whether the patient is stable, borderline, or unstable. If the patient is stable, then early total care is advised. The patient is borderline. Control the hemorrhage, decompress the chest, and do a secondary survey. The patient is stable, early total care. The patient is unstable or the condition is uncertain, then damage control orthopedics. If the patient is unstable from the beginning, then damage control orthopedics. If the patient is in very severe condition or in extremes, then external fixator and monitor the patient and manage in the ICU. Which patients should be treated with the damage control orthopedics? Clinical parameters used in Germany to define the borderline patient for whom damage control orthopedics is often preferred. Borderline here means patient is predisposed for worsening. The polytrauma with injury severity score of more than 20 points and additional thoracic trauma. Polytrauma with the abdominal or pelvic trauma and hemorrhagic shock. Injury severity score of more than 40 points in the absence of additional thoracic injury. Radiographic findings of bilateral lung contusion. Initial mean arterial pressure of more than 24 millimeters of mercury. Increase of more than 6 millimeters of mercury in pulmonary arterial pressure during intramedullary nailing. Clinical parameters associated with the adverse outcomes in multiple injured patients. Unstable condition or resuscitation difficult. Coagulopathy, platelet count less than 90,000. Hypothermia, temperature less than 30 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Celsius. Shock and more than 25 units of blood needed. Bilateral lung contusion on first plane radiograph. Multiple long bone injuries and truncal injury. Presumed operation time more than 6 hours. Arterial injury and hemodynamic instability. Exaggerated inflammatory response. Femoral fractures in a multiple injured patients are not automatically treated with a intramedullary nailing because of concerns about the second hit of such procedure. In addition to the second hit, which results in an additional systemic inflammatory response, embolic fat from use of instrumentation in the medullary canal will worsen the pulmonary status. Bilateral femoral fracture is a unique scenario in a polytrauma that is associated with a higher mortality rate and incidence of adult respiratory distress syndrome than in unilateral femoral fractures. Thus, such injuries are ideal for damage control orthopedics. Pelvic ring injuries. Hemorrhage associated with the pelvic fracture is another injury complex suitable for damage control orthopedics. Hemorrhage can result from a combination of osseous, venous, and arterial bleeding. Most common arterial injuries involve the internal iliac artery or its branches. Posterior pelvic ring injuries 2 to 3 times more blood loss than the anterior. Anterior-posterior compression type 3 injuries and lateral compression injuries are associated with a high prevalence of vascular injuries, 22 and 23%. Older patients, the higher the bleeding. Indications for angiography. The main controversy regarding the treatment of a patient with a perfuse hemorrhage relates to the role of angiography and embolization. The angiography is indicated if there is a hypotension which is not responding to placement of a pelvic binder or external fixator, pelvic C-clamp or a pelvic stabilizer, or a patient has required more than 4 units of blood, or if there is an expanding retroperitoneal hematoma or vascular blast seen on the computed tomography or a massive retroperitoneal hematoma. Embolization later than 3 hours after injury increased the risk of mortality by 5-fold. Geriatric trauma. In addition, pelvic ring injuries in individuals more than 50 years old are associated with the increased chances of arterial injuries and higher transfusion requirements. That is why damage control orthopedics is important. And immediate mobilization and avoiding the prolonged bed rest is also important to prevent chest problems and bed sores. And in old age, the mortality rate is very high. Head injuries and bone fractures. There is no compelling evidence that early long bone stabilization either enhances or worsens the outcome in patients with a mild, moderate, or a severe head injury. But bone fixation should not worsen general condition of the patient. Chest injuries and femur fractures. Some debate still exists regarding the use of a reamed intramedullary nailing for multiple injured patients with a both significant chest injury and a femur shaft fracture. In most instances, early IM nailing is the best choice, but in cases of most severe multi-system trauma, injury severity score of more than 15, temporary stabilization with an external fixator followed by frame removal and definitive intramedullary nailing results in lower mortality rates. Mangled extremities. In mangled extremities, you have to avoid prolonged, costly, fruitless salvage procedures. Amputation would prove to have a better functional outcome than reconstruction for the treatment of traumatic amputation seen type 3B, 3C open tibial fractures, selected type 3A open tibial fractures, vascular injuries, major soft tissue injuries, severe foot injuries. In such cases, better to do an amputation than a salvage procedures. Isolate complex lower extremity trauma in a sick patient. That is limb damage control orthopedics. Specific injuries that are amenable to this approach include complex proximal tibial articular fractures. If you leave these fractures untreated, then patient will develop a compartment syndrome and you may lose the limb. Metaphyseal fractures, distal tibial pylon fractures. In such fractures, during resuscitation or auto stabilization, better to put an external fixator temporarily, avoid further damage to the leg. Early versus late stabilization of the spine in polytrauma patient. All of the studies evaluated consistently demonstrated shorter hospital and intensive care unit length of stays, fewer days on mechanical ventilation, lower complications in patients who were treated with early spine decompression and stabilization. These advantages are more marked in patients with polytrauma. When can secondary orthopedic procedures be performed? One of the most important issues in damage control orthopedics is timing of the secondary surgical procedures. Days 2, 3, and 4 are not safe for performing definitive surgery. During this period, marked immune reactions are ongoing and increased generalized edema is observed. Re-evaluate after 1 week and then plan definitive fixation. Clinical outcomes of damage control orthopedics. Patients who were treated with the damage control orthopedics demonstrated a lower risk of adult respiratory syndrome than those treated with the initial intramedullary nailing. But we have to accept some complications like pin tract infection and wound infection.